Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 182. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Down in the comment section, let me know, for the PGA Championship, did you bet Bryson? Because it seems like anybody that has placed any wager whatsoever has bet Bryson. So curious to see if there's anybody out there that maybe didn't. But that's what we're going to be diving into this week is the PGA Championship. And joining me, as he's done for the last 2 years, we have host of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates, Kenny Kim. How we doing, Kenny?
Derek, man, it's good to be on the show again, ready to talk shop about this PGA Championship. And yes, I am one of those cats who did bet on Bryson DeChambeau. Though I did get him, I bet him Sunday of the Masters. And yeah, I got him at 18-1 with 8 places, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself. I ended up getting him at 14, probably like halfway through last week. I literally saw a 16, and when I logged in to actually get it in the bet slip, it dropped to 14 in real time. So I've been
now like
basically
8.
Oh yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy with 14. But but I mean, you see the goofy hat here. I literally have been a Bryson guy since he's worn this goofy hat, and just like you said at the Masters, I basically been meaning to bet it since then. Never did, and ended up not getting I think it was actually 20 at one point. I could have got it, but we take the 14 and we move on. So it'd be a great community win. But a lot of people don't like the PGA Championship, or not necessarily don't like it, but don't hold it as high as the US Open or the Masters or the Open. And I get it, but I do really like this tournament quite a bit. I think the fact that they've moved it to May instead of August is actually much better. I've heard some people make a case that they should move it back, but I don't agree with that at all, because I think it was just left for dead and forgotten, and people were kind of over major season when it was at the end of the year. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I like the way they got it. One big tournament every month, players, Masters, PGA, US Open, all in 5 months, all once a month. I think it's good to have, big time events, as I would say as close together as possible, just because, it keeps everyone's attention for a while. And it feels sort of like a season, right? Because golf season is sort of strange. It's just never ending. It goes through the fall. It sort of has it gives it sort of like those steps that you need throughout the year. Now, I ending with the FedEx Cup still sucks, but they're making changes to it. So we'll see how it changes and what comes out, because I haven't really heard what the changes will be.
No.
But I know there are going to be changes this year.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what that's going to be. And then obviously we're here to talk PGA Championship, but quickly we can go through the Truist, mainly just so I can brag a little bit, because I was on Straka, hit the third outright of the year.
Nice.
So that was exciting. And it's funny, I had the outright on JT also. So put a little hedge on Lowry, but there was literally no point where I was worried about Lowry, just because he has been terrible down the stretch with the lead, and it came to fruition again. So I threw a little bit of my profit out there just to hedge, but it was nice, especially being Mother's Day, barbecued and sat outside with the family, didn't even have to watch the end of it, knew there was a guaranteed profit. So pretty good Draftkings week as well. So couldn't complain about that.
Yeah, on Draftkings, Straka and JT were 2 of my cash game cornerstones, which is great. It was a great DFS week, winning week. The issue is I didn't bet either one of them, and I usually bet like at least 75%. 80% of my cash game cornerstone plays. Didn't bet either one of those guys, JT or Straka, but had them in my cash lineup and in another lineup as well. So it was a solid week in DFS.
Yeah, I had a pretty good week, but it's like been the same thing over the last year. It's like I go into Sunday and I'm like in the top 25, maybe top 30, within striking distance, and I'm like, oh, I'm shipping something. Today's the day. And it's like I have 2 guys that are, it's not even like, oh man, I didn't ship it, at least I came 5th. It's like I had Bhatia +4 on Sunday. I had Hoagie in the same lineup, ended up finishing in 38th place in a tournament. And it's like, those 2 were +6 combined. It's like you can't just shoot even par and make it good, but profitable week is a profitable week, so can't complain too much there.
Yeah, I've had a 5th and an 8th in the last 5 weeks in the GPP. I played $100 single entry. I finished 5th, I think, for the Heritage, and 8th the week after at the Zurich. So I had nice, almost 5 figures in winnings those 2 weeks. So it was, yeah.
Yeah, I've been pretty profitable, but haven't really had the high end finishes. I think the last top 10 I had was at the Olympics. So it's been a little while. So we're due. So we could dive into the PGA Championship and maybe we can get one this week. But obviously, second major of the year. Going into this, it's crazy the amount of storylines that we have. I guess real quick before we dive into everything, the state of golf. Do you think this is one of the best states that golf has been in basically since Live happened? Because I mean, obviously Scotty dominated last year, but we have Rory winning the Masters finally. JT just won. Scotty just murked everybody. I mean, we have obviously Bryson winning on there's just so many storylines, and the fact that Spieth is actually playing well again. I mean, there's so much to get excited about going into this week.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot. I mean, I guess the state of golf it's definitely seems like it's improving, but anything's an improvement from just bitching about Live the entire time. It seems like Live, what it did, it caused a disruption and it did what it did, but now people are just starting to not care about it and focus more on the golf. And it's a lot easier to focus on the golf when the best guys in the world are playing at the top of their game. Right? I mean, that's super helpful for the PGA Tour. You can't doubt that. You got Bryson on Live, and that's basically about it when it comes to guys who have been on the radar at majors and stuff like that for the last few. They've had some decent finishes. Patrick Reed has had some good finishes. I think he's helped. But I mean, the PGA Tour guys have it's been the top guys winning, and it's been good to see, and it's been good for the ratings. And you have the Rory, you have the Spieth. Straka looks like he's coming into being this next, really, really strong golfer. They're not. They'll still have the talent that they need to go, even with the Live guys out. And I think people are starting to understand that and realize that the PGA Tour, even without the Live guys, is going to be just fine.
Yep, definitely. Well, if we dive into this week, obviously PGA Championship, we can go through some of the winners of the past couple PGA Championships here. Obviously, last year we had Xander, 21 under. I bet him at the Masters. I said, everybody says he can't win a major until he can, and obviously he came out and did it the very next time. So Xander was 21 under at Valhalla last year. We had Koepka, 9 under at Oak Hill in 2023. JT, 5 under at Southern Hills. 2021 was that magical Phil year. That was absolutely crazy. 6 under at Kiowa. Morikawa in the COVID year, 13 under at Harding Park. And then we had back-to-back Koepkas, -8 at Bethpage, -16 at Bellerive. And then we were here in 2017 with JT, and he won it at 8 under. Now, I've heard some people referencing 2017 and how this could play, but I don't know how much merit it really has. I do think that if you're trying to pick between guys in a bet or DraftKings play, the fact that they maybe competed well that year makes sense, but trying to compare it to how it's going to play this week, I don't think so. Mainly for a couple reasons. One is just the guys are a lot better. The technology is better, but also it was in August. So it played really, really firm and fast. So I mean, you look at that leaderboard, we had a lot of short guys up towards the top of that leaderboard. And with the amount of rain that they got this week going in, I don't think it's going to play anywhere close to what it did in 2017. Do you feel the same way with that?
I mean, I think it's definitely going to be a little bit easier with the softness. I think the score is probably going to be in the low teens, not -8 or whatever. I think we'll reach the teens. But what it seems like with the weather and the wind that we might get on the weekend, and maybe a little bit of drying out on Sunday. I mean, I think you could see the winning score on Friday. You know what I'm saying? I think you could see the guys have someone being -13, -12 after the, when after the second round, and the winning score being around that same area. As the weekend makes it a little bit tougher with the wind coming in on Saturday. If it doesn't rain on Saturday and they get that wind and the sun comes out, Sunday could be a lot drier, a lot firmer. But you're right, it's not going to be like 2017 with super firm and fast conditions. But they're going to try and make it as close as possible, because they do have that state-of-the-art sub-air system. If you were on X today, you heard some videos of that thing pumping, because they've gotten a lot of rain. I live in the DC area. We got a couple of inches of rain today, and I'm sure that that was from what they got yesterday. So it's definitely going to be wet. It's definitely going to be different types of conditions.
Yeah, I'm up in New York, and it seems like it's raining everywhere every day. It's absolutely crazy. But if we dive into the course, Quail Hollow, it's nice. We get different venues every single year. It's kind of nice to have one where we do see it every year and see it playing a little bit different in a major venue. But Quail Hollow is obviously the host of the Wells Fargo every year. Now, as I mentioned, they did play the 2017 PGA here, but we have a 7,626 yard par 71 Bermuda greens. Now, it is overseeded with the POA, so really the Bermuda is going to be dormant here. They added 68 yards from last year. Looks like they put 10 yards on the first hole, 25 yards to 9, and 33 to the 17th hole. There are 7 holes with water in play, 61 bunkers. Looks like the rough is going to be somewhere around 3 inches. Is that what you're seeing too, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm seeing 3 to 3.5, and then they're probably not going to cut it. So if it's 3.5 at the start on Thursday, I could expect it to be 4+ by Sunday.
Yeah, with the amount of rain that they've been getting, I could definitely see that being the case, and it getting thick and getting nasty. But they have the ryegrass overseed in the rough too, so generally that's a little easier to play out of. But I've heard that they're going to be adding some deeper rough as well, different grass types. So it's going to be gnarly out there. Now there are 3 par 5s, 4 par 3s.
I've actually heard that the rye that they're overseeding the rough is a new type of rye that makes the grass even stickier, is what I heard.
Yeah, I didn't hear exactly the type of grass, but I did hear that they were changing the grass type and that it was going to play much closer to what we would see, because that Bermuda gets so thick and hard to hit out of, whereas ryegrass sometimes can be a little bit easier. So they said it's going to play harder than that typical ryegrass. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic that we see this week as well. But we have 3 par 5s on the course, 4 par 3s, 11 par 4s. Obviously, the par 5s are the easiest holes on the course. You absolutely have to score on them every year. Whoever wins at Quail Hollow is towards the top 5 or even top 3 in par 5 scoring. Par 3s are pretty long, and the shortest of which plays 184 yards, the longest at 249. So kind of got to tread water there. 6 of the 11 par 4s are 450 to 500 yards, and the par 4s play is 4 of the 5 most difficult holes on the course. So definitely got to play well on the par 4s. And obviously, this is home with the Green Mile, the 3-hole closing stretch that plays extremely difficult. Starts with 16 500-yard par 4, trouble on both sides of the fairway, approach shots into the green. There's water to the left and behind the green, bunkers on the right. 17th, 233-yard par 3 over a lake, and then you have 18 with that creek running up the side, 494 yards there. So, and anything so far, Kenny, that other than par 5 scoring, that you think guys are gonna have to focus on with the layout of this course?
Of course, being long is going to help, but if you're not long iron play, short game, definitely stuff that I'm looking at. I know, usually around 60% of greens are hit here during the Wells Fargo. I think that'll probably be around, maybe a little bit less, depending on how thick this rough is and depending on how soft the conditions are. But I think around the green play is going to come in handy this week.
Yeah, I've actually bumped it up in my model quite a bit from what I had it. I do think that it's going to be, especially if this rough plays that difficult. And you're going to be playing from the rough here because obviously off the tee, one of the hardest to hit fairways on tour. Only about 50% of fairways are hit, actually slightly under that. So guys are going to be missing these fairways. And as you said, the more distance you have, the shorter approach shots you're going to have to hit out of this rough. So that's definitely going to go a long way here. And on approach, I mean, long iron play is an absolute must. 60% of all approach shots come from 175 plus. 30% of those are over 200 yards. So you got to be dialed in with those long irons. And then you touched on it, not really going to be hitting a ton of greens in regulation here. So you're going to have to rely on that scrambling around the green. And then even when guys are hitting greens in regulation, we have one of the furthest proximities to the hole when you do hit greens in regulation here. So 3 putts could come into play. It's obviously one of the most difficult courses to putt inside of 10 feet. So guys are going to have to be able to putt too once they do hit these greens. And so it's a tee to green, just absolute. It's going to test everybody from the second they tee off until the second the ball goes in the hole. But and anything to add as far as the course goes? Got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean the course is definitely going to play long. Bombers are going to be good here. I mean you're going to need we see it every year. We know what succeeds here. We know what's going to happen. Long iron play and bombing off the tee and short game. I mean basically it's what it comes down to. And of course, like you said, the putting is always tough. So however you feel about the course, whatever. This is what we're dealing with this week. And sometimes it's nice seeing a familiar course at a major. Sometimes you don't want to do all the extra research to find these new courses. We just had one last week and we had to do a deep dive into it. So from a content perspective, it's sort of nice knowing what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think, so many people are focusing on the Bombers this week, which I definitely will be doing. I definitely think they have an advantage. But I do think other skill sets will play here. Obviously, if you're a shorter hitter, you're going to have to be in as many fairways as possible. But I do think that we can make a case for some guys, as long as they're good with the long irons or can make up for it around the greens, that they could be in play here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ruling shorties out. That's for sure. I mean, if you got the skill set that I'm looking for with the long iron playing short game, I mean, I'll still be taking a peek at it, especially in that lower price range. Where that's where you see the majority of those type of golfers.
Yep. So we have 156 golfers in the field, top 70 in ties, so a little bit different than a regular tournament, but top 70 in ties actually kind of interesting because, it adds a couple spots here where we're diving down into this 5K range. It gives us a couple extra chances for those guys to actually make the weekend.
Well, yeah, and especially if you add maybe the 20 PGA professionals. I mean, only a couple of those usually make the cut too. So, out of the 150, whatever, 6 that you got, you could probably knock out another 15. So it's really like 140 guys. So they're cut. It seems like they're just cutting it in half.
Yep. So if we dive into the bets, my card was basically halfway finished on the weekend. I went with Bryson. We already talked about that. Got the 14. Obviously, he's been playing great. 5th at the Masters, 2nd at Mexico, 1 in Korea. Then I went Xander, and I got that before the Truist last week. I got him at 20. I mean, I saw him at 12, 14 on some books. So the 20 stood out, and I figured if he had a good Truist, that number would get demolished. That wasn't necessarily the case, but he's obviously played well at Quail Hollow, 2nd the last 2 times. I mean, he's playing well this year, 12th, 8th at the Masters, 18th and 11th coming in. And he's been striking the irons very well, but hasn't really been great with the putter, but gained 3.6 strokes putting last week. So I like what I saw from him last week. I like the fact that, obviously reigning PGA champion. So I like it quite a bit there. So I was thinking about with those two, I wanted to go JT and overexpose myself a little bit, but I couldn't do it. So I ended up just taking a top 10 on JT, and I actually went a little bit further down the board. I went with Reed with 7 places at 90 to 1. He's another guy. He's played well at Quail. He's 6th in 2021, 8th in 2018. He was 2nd in that PGA Championship here. He's been great this year on LIV and the Asian Tour. He was 4th in Korea, 3rd at the Masters. He was 2nd on an Asian Tour event prior to that and 7th in Miami. So playing well. He's actually added a little bit of distance. I mean, take LIV's statistics for what they are, but his average drive is listed at 304. So, I mean, that's not usually something that you expect from Reed, but he's added a little distance there. And then last guy on my card is I went Homa, and this one's kind of out of left field, but 150 to 1 with 7 places. Obviously hasn't been great this year, but his best finish this year was at a major, 12th at the Masters. You know, he's been playing better at majors, 3rd at the Masters last year. He had a 10th at the Open in 2023. Showed some flashes last week. 30th wasn't the greatest finish, but that was kind of him just doing nothing on Sunday, but looked pretty good. Gained with the driver and putting. And then obviously we know Homa has courses where he plays well. They are Homa courses, and this is one of them. You know, he won here in 2019, 8th the last 2 times he's played here. So I took a chance and went with Homa there. What do you got on your card so far?
Yeah, I mean, I have Bryson just like you. I have Bryson, but I got him at 18 to 1. I got him Sunday of the Masters. I couldn't not bet JT, so I'm definitely overexposed this week. So I went JT 18 to 1 also with 8 places. And I was like you. I was thinking about Xander. It was either between Xander or Rahm for my next. And I went ahead and took 3 places on Bet365 so I can get the little bit better outright number. So I went ahead and took Rahm 28 to 1 with 3 places. That number just seemed good. You could still get Xander 28 to 1 also. So if you like Xander, which I did, it was between those two for me for that 3rd bet. And I went Rahm, a little bit contrarian type play. I think people were he hasn't been playing at the majors that great since he went to LIV. I mean, he made the cut on a number at Augusta, but still finished top 15, which is respectable, especially how he started the week. But I mean, the thing about Rahm is every aspect of his game is still there. His off the tee game has been exceptionally strong. His around the green game has been very, very strong. He's been above average with his irons. This is all on LIV, and he's been above average with his putter this season. The game is there, and for Rahm, it's mostly the mental with him. What we noticed at Augusta, what basically brought him down the first couple of days was, Angry Hulk Rahm came out, right? The first couple of days. And when he was the best player in the world right before he went to LIV, the big difference in his game from maybe 3 years prior, 4 years prior, was he sort of controlled his emotions. You didn't see Hulk Rahm as much. And that led to better play for John and being the best player in the world at that point in time. Now he's gone to LIV. I think he's got a little bit more frustration because of the fact that he hasn't performed as well as he would like. And it's cost him at these majors. And I think, that's the only part that's missing, the mental. And I think he knows it, and he's changed it before. And I think if he watched what he looked like at Augusta, which hopefully he did, because guys watch, film and shit nowadays of everything, and see him, I think he could see that the way he acts like that is a detriment to his game. And I'm hoping that he learns from that, because that's all that needs to change for Rahm, is that mental to click back on, because the rest of his game is fine. He's a top 5 player in the world. There is no doubt in my mind. And you can get him a 28 to 1. I'm going to go ahead and take that with the 3 places. I have Koepka from a long time ago. I have this Koepka investment bet where, after his win in 2023, I stated that I'm going to bet Koepka at every major for the next 5 years. I'm going to put $50 on Koepka. Right, his odds are normally 20 to 30 to 1, around that. This week they're 50 to 1, but they're normally 20 to 30 to 1. You hit once, you make your money back in those 5 years. And Koepka at that time was the most prolific major winner of our generation with 5, which Rory just tied. So I using that train of thought, I have put $50 on Brooks Koepka every single major since that PGA Championship. He's 0 for 7, not great. But, still 13 majors left for him to hit. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing it. I said I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it. So I put $50 on him at 50-1. I don't know if you really want to count that as a bet, but I am betting it. I didn't get as good a number as you for Reed. I can only use one book because it's the only book available to me that has each ways.
It is the best book, though. I don't. That's the only one I don't have access to in New York, and it pisses me off because if they do, I would love.
Well, the 90-1 is really good. I mean,
that was Bet Rivers.
Okay, you know what? I do have Bet Rivers too. Maybe I should join them. But anyways, I got
the only difference with them is you get 7 places for the majors and 6 places for the normal tournaments. They don't give you any other options as far as each ways go.
See, that's why I bet 365 have the 3, the 5.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You
12.
Yep.
I've seen them go as high as 14 before for some majors. So yeah, that does make a big difference. But I got Reed too, 66-1. My long shot was a future I made last fall when Maverick McNeely won for the first time. I took him at 100-1 with his with 8 places with his length and his putting prowess, but his putting's been sort of shitty here recently. The only bets that I added this week are JT 18-1, Rahm 28-1, and Reed 66-1 with 8 places. I had the Bryson and I had the Koepkas. I have to bet, and I had the Maverick McNeely.
So hopefully Bryson or Reed can win, and then we got a winner. So yeah. I think actually you were on for 2023. We both had Koepka that year, right? Yep. You were on him. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we gave that out on this show. So we're 1-1. Let's make it 2-1.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. We'll see.
But I guess we could dive into Draftkings. I do like the fact that they gave, Scotty a little bump. I wish Rory was up there with him, but I like the fact that we have the 5K range here this week. It's going to make an interesting dynamic. So, we could spend a little bit of time up top with these guys and kind of talk the strategy, because I think with that 5K range on Draftkings this week, it's going to make people really go stars and scrubs here. And I think a lot of lineups are going to start with Rory Bryson, Rory JT, or Bryson JT. And I think we see possibly even 75% of the field in any tournament with one of those combinations. What's your thoughts up top? Because I do think Scotty will get played, but I think the price difference and the fact you can make a case that Bryson and Rory maybe should even be priced up there with him is going to be an interesting dynamic.
Well, I mean, I have Bryson and JT in my cash lineup. I mean, for cash, I'm just going to go ahead, like double ups and 50-50s. I'm just going to go ahead and put them in it. Even head to heads, I'd probably go ahead and just put Bryson and JT in. Now you're right. Like this is like the first time. Like if you look at the top 8 highest priced golfers in this field, JT and up. It looks like Bryson, Rory, and JT might be higher owned than Scotty. I mean, you're going to get Scotty as like the 4th highest owned golfer in the field, which probably hasn't happened in over a year, I would expect.
Yeah.
So if there's any time to get leverage on Scotty, it's going to be this week. Now, am I going to do it? I don't know yet. I have one. I'm only make 5 line. I'm going to make 5 lineups this week. Most weeks I only make 3 lineups now. So I'm a little bit different when it comes to DraftKings now. I don't mass multi-enter, so my train of thought's a little bit different. But I have one Scheffler lineup right now, and if you can get him at like 20%, let's say that's what his ownership's going to be. I mean, to have 40% Scheffler and be twice the field when sometimes you're not even at the field level, because there was an event a few weeks ago, he was like 44% owned, right? So, I mean, there is leverage there with Scotty. From a game theory perspective, I think that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously he just boat raced a Corn Ferry field, so you can't really translate that to this, but from a confidence standpoint, the fact that he hasn't won yet, I mean, that could open the floodgates for him. We're so far removed, obviously he had the injury to start the year, and people kind of have a short-term memory. Obviously, everybody remembers what he did last year, but I don't think we really remember what he did last year. There was no one that was on the same page as Scotty. And yeah, all these guys are coming in much better form, and you can make a case for them over Scotty. But like you just said, if you're getting Scotty and you could be double the field, I'm definitely going to do it. Now, with that being said, there's no way that I can get away from Rory or Bryson or JT. So the rest of these guys, it's going to be really hard for me to get to. Ludwig is just mispriced. It is what it is. It's, the way I see him is basically Hovland at this point. They have the upside, but they also could miss any cut. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there on the two of them. I do have a little interest in Hovland, but like I said, if I'm going to play these three guys up top, I kind of want to play Xander and Justin Thomas. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all these guys. Who are you really dialing in on up top here? Because I think those three at the top, there's no way I can get away from them.
Yeah, I won't be able to play all three. So it looks like I'm going to fade Rory, which seems really fucking stupid. But that's probably what I'm going to do because I have Bryson already in my cash lineup, and I'm going to play Scotty just to try and pick off some of that leverage. So I'm not going to play all three. I only have 5 lineups. So I'm gonna stick with those two up top, and Bryson I may only play in cash. We'll see. I haven't made my lineups. I think I've made like 2. So we'll see how that goes. When it comes to golfers underneath that, I do like Xander. I will be making some lineups without those 3 guys in it. Just because if you think about it, that's going to be, I would say, roughly 70 to 80% of all lineups will have one of those 3 in it. I would like to be the easiest way to be different this week is going to be to not play the top 3.
And also, I think a lot of people that don't play those 3 are going to start with JT. So if you start with Xander, that probably gets you tremendously different too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start one with Rahm. I already talked about my love for Rahm this week, and it works for DFS as well. Because again, if you look at the top 8 guys, highest price guys, starting from JT up, I would say the only person. I know Oberg probably will be less. I don't know. Oberg's one of the most tipped golfers on Golf Tips for this week. Yeah, he's like top 6 in the Golf Tip sheet. So I'm not really sure what's going on. So because honestly, it doesn't make sense for Oberg at this course. He hits it so long and hits it so straight. It's just his form coming in.
He's been so out of sight, out of mind for me from a betting standpoint. What is his number? Because that's the only thing I can think of. Is the number just so good on him?
I think it's 18-1 still, 20-1. I don't think it's crazy.
Who's betting him?
But I expected him to be the lowest owned out of the 8. We'll see. I think that's still going to be the case, but I think Rahm might be the second lowest owned. I think probably. Xander would be higher owned. JT is definitely going to be higher owned. The top 3 is definitely going to be higher owned. I think maybe Morikawa and John might have the similar ownership, but you're looking at like possibly the 7th highest owned golfer of the 8 highest priced guys. And, you're trying to win GPPs out here, right? And it's, to pivot from Rory to John Rahm, it's not like you're not killing yourself there. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not killing yourself. This is the easiest place to pivot, right? It's going to be up top here.
And it's a $3,200 savings from Scotty.
Yeah, it's the easiest place to pivot up here because you still have confidence in the guy you're pivoting, like high confidence, because they're one of the best golfers in the world, right? So it makes it easier for me to go in here and do this, and I like Rahm.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I am playing more lineups. Similar to you, I changed up my strategy. I was going like 5 to 8 lineups and just trying to get a tighter core. I did that for about 5 weeks and had 1 profitable week. So last week I went back to I play a 20 max, and then I usually play a 3 entry and 2 single entries. So that's what I'll be doing this week. So I could potentially add Rahm in a couple, and especially if he's going to be lower owned, it could make sense, especially in my 20 max. But I don't know. I think I like it from a betting standpoint more, where you got him at 28, whereas at this price, yeah, you're saving a tremendous amount on Scotty, but I don't know. I don't know if I can get there. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but there's just these guys around him I want to play more, but obviously they're going to come with far higher ownership. So come tomorrow, who knows? He might stick out like a sore thumb and I might get there. But what are you thinking here in the 9K range? Because obviously everybody's going to go to JT. I do have some interest in Hovland, but I think I'm probably going to stay away from a lot of this 9K range. And I do have interest in Hideki and probably Spieth. I think Spieth playing well here. I do think that the two of them, Hideki hasn't been great, but the around the green game that we said you're going to need, he still has that. It's been a little bit off the tee that has been killing him, but I think the two of them might get squeezed a little bit in ownership, and they're the two that are sticking out to me in the 9K range. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, Hideki and Hovland are the guys that I'm going to play. You would expect after last week, Cantley might pick up a little bit of steam. Fleetwood would pick up a little bit of steam. Lowry would pick up a little bit of steam. From those three, I'd probably go Lowry. But I don't think I'm going to play him either. I think this could be a dead zone, really, because of the popularity of the top three golfers. It's tough to go here. It's a lot easier to go in the 8K range. You can get a couple of those guys to go with your Bryson or something like that, or go with your Scotty. It definitely makes it a lot easier to build a lineup that you don't puke at when you look. But Hovland's I don't think Hovland's ever going to be a consistent player. You're going to have to find out when his peaks and valleys are and bet accordingly. And I think right now he's at a peak. I think the reason I think that is because he changes his swing so much. He tries for perfection. Guys like that, they're always tinkering. They're always trying new shit, and they can. I don't think he's not Tiger. He's not like that level where you could tinker and still be like the best. Like you tinker and you fuck up, and then you go and then you figure something out, and then you come back up because the ball striking is usually there. The talent's there for him, and I think he's in a little bit of an upswing with his win a few weeks ago. A couple of decent finishes, so I do like him. Hideki makes sense because if you look there, he's the most prolific winner in the 9K range. Wins all the time. His iron game he's gained like 12 strokes with his irons in his last two events. His a short game is elite. It's going to come down to his driver, and if he can have above average week off the tee, I think he has a chance.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And he's been wayward with the driver, but nobody's really going to be playing from the fairway this week anyway, so maybe it doesn't hurt him as much, and he can make up for it with the iron and around the green game. And if he can hit some putts, I think he's definitely in play here.
Yeah.
Now, I said I'm not a big fan of the 9K range other than that lower range there, but I kind of feel the same way about the 8K range, at least at the top. I'm not going to get there on Henley. I do think if this was a month ago, if we saw him at this price, he'd be incredibly popular, but he hasn't been playing as well as what we saw him coming off of the win. Day, obviously, we have the injury concerns. Zalatoris hasn't looked good. I have some interest in Minwoo Lee. I think that he could play well here, but he's very hit or miss as well. So I'm probably leaning more towards this lower range. I do like Connors. I think this probably plays well for him. Sungjae Im has been playing much better golf recently. He has some good finishes at Quail Hollow. Patrick Reed already made the case for, and I'm not going away from Sepp Straka. So I like this lower 8K range quite a bit, and I don't know that I can necessarily get there on any of these guys in the upper range.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. If I was going to go high, I would think about Minwoo. Again, I like the same guys you do. I really like Corey Connors. I have Patrick Reed in cash. Corey tends to play these tough courses, long courses pretty well. Always scores par fives well for a guy who's a little bit shorter. So I do like Corey. Justin Rose, back-to-back runner-ups at majors. I think he's had like 5 straight top 20s at PGA Championships. I think Byron said it yesterday during my show. He thinks that, the weather was miserable. He wasn't in contention. He just nixed out of last week. I don't think you have to really worry about it, so you could focus on another major. The guy's just been a major guy. Like we've seen it for the last 2 times. It's been really impressive, and he's been one of the better putters at majors in the last 2 years. And I think it's going to come into big time effect this week at the PGA Championship.
Yeah, I definitely think it's worth taking a shot too, because I mean, even this year we've seen him. He'll miss a cut, he'll come out and he'll finish 3rd or 2nd, and then he'll finish 50th, and then come back out and get a top 10. So the ceiling is definitely there, and I think from a DraftKings standpoint, it definitely makes some sense, especially with the major prowess that he has. What are you looking at in the 7K range?
I think I just saw Ryan Fox got added. 7,900 seems a little steep for him. In the upper 7K, again, I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, Daniel Berger sticks out a little bit just because of his form, the way that he's been playing golf this whole year. His numbers look good to me as well when it comes to a stat perspective. Always really good on par 5. His iron game has been strong. His short game is well above average. A little bit short off the tee, but he makes it up with pretty good accuracy. Decent with his long irons, especially from 200 plus. He's pretty freaking good. So I can get behind a little bit of Daniel Berger up top in that 7K range.
Yeah, that's really all I'm looking at in the upper. I'm going to play Homa just because if I'm willing to bet him on the upside, might as well go with the DraftKings too, because I don't think anybody's going to get there. Finau's interesting, just showed some flashes last week. So I don't think he gets too popular. 7,400, a good price for him. Bhatia, I would expect to get some ownership, 7,300. I'm definitely going to be in there. And then I don't know if I'm going to get there on Keegan, but I could see it. Probably going to depend on his ownership there. And then I'm actually going to play Ricky Fowler, 7,100. I like what I saw last week, and this has been a happy place for him in the past. So I don't see him getting too popular. And 7,100, you don't need him to come out here and win. So that's basically what I'm looking at in the 7K range.
Yeah, I've been thinking about Ricky Fowler. I think I might actually play him because everything you said, he did look good last week. He looked, with all the shit people were talking about him not deserving a sponsor's exemption, he played pretty well. And again, his history here is solid. I like betting on at 7,200. He makes a lot of cuts at these majors. He's extremely long off the tee. His iron game's been a little bit iffy, but if you can come with what he's been known for, his ball striking throughout his career, for this week, maybe he can make some noise. Maybe he can conjure something up. But the guy always seems to be able to grind it out and make the cut. And then, who knows what can happen on the weekend.
Yeah, I think he was 8th here last year when Rory won. So has a good finish here recently. I've heard a lot of people bring him up, so probably going to see what his ownership comes in at before I make a decision on him. If we go down to the 6K range, Harris English, just not a guy I usually get right, but tends to show up in big boy fields and has played well on this course. Denny McCarthy, I mean, this is one of the more difficult courses to putt on. Probably good to go with a good putter, and obviously he's one of the best in the field here. Andrew Novak, I don't hate. I think when it comes to a scrambling standpoint and around the green, he can definitely make up for some of his deficiencies elsewhere. So don't hate that. And then I like Steven Yeager too at 6,500. But anybody stick out to you in this 6K range?
I like David Puig at 6,500. The live guy, super long off the tee, can really putt his ass off. It's a pretty good combo to have. We've actually seen that win majors here recently, like Wyndham Clark. All right. He's got the skill. He's been playing in tournaments outside of live as well, and playing very, very well on both outside of live and at live this season. I think he can make a good, 5% owned guy out there who's not going to be hardly owned. That could really help your GPP lineups. If you go down a little bit more, I like Bud Cauley. From a statistical standpoint, it seems like he makes a lot of sense, and he's had a bunch of good finishes so far this in the last, I'd say, 2 months. When it comes to his iron play, he's 11th in this field in strokes gained approach in the last 24 rounds. Granted, his courses that he plays, probably a little bit easier than the courses, say, Rory or somebody like that has played, but still pretty solid. Everything sort of pans out. His long iron plays pretty good. Makes a fair amount of birdies if they need that in the first couple of days, above average around the green. Buck Cauley interests me. I like a couple of other guys down here. I mean, Keith Mitchell, he's not going to win, right? And if he garners any type of steam, it would be an easy fade for him. But the guy's
I think he's gonna.
You think he's gonna?
I think he's gonna. He's just been, he's been playing well. Obviously, if you're playing first round showdown, he's probably going to be the highest owned. But
yeah,
I think 6,200, just with how well he's been playing coming in here, I do think he gets some ownership. So got to see how much, because you said it. He definitely looks like he's worth a play, and at only 6,200, I don't know. I'm gonna have to see how popular he gets.
Yeah, if he's popular, I probably wouldn't play him. If he's gonna be like one of the 2 highest owned guys in the 6K range, which maybe he will be, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, if you're looking at the Buck Cauley play, can be a nice pivot from Keith Mitchell if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I love the Cauley play. I definitely will be playing him. He's good on those long par fours. Not great from 200 yards, but he's very, very good from 175 to 200. Good putter. And you said, he's not playing the courses that Rory is, but I'm pretty sure he came top 10 at the Players. So he's been playing really good golf this year. And you said it. I don't think he garners a lot of ownership there. Probably a great pivot off of Keith Mitchell. The 5K range, little sketchy. I mean, obviously made the case that we have some extra spots here with the top 70 and ties here. If you're playing double studs up top or Scotty, you're probably going to have at least one of these guys. I like Sam Stevens. Gary Woodland is a guy that I think makes sense here, has played well at Quail Hollow in the past, has the distance that you want. Eugenio Lopez Chikara, I think this is a guy that I don't think a lot of people will be on, potentially has some upside. And then the lowest I would probably go, I might play Valimaki just because of how good he's been playing recently. But other than that, there's really not much I love in the 5K range. How about you?
I mean, Mac Hughes, this is his club, his home club. A couple of top 10s here in the last 4 years, right? Coming off a runner-up where he probably should have won last week. So he's got a little bit of confidence coming in, $5,600. I'll take a risk on him. Eric Cole, we've seen him first-round leader at a PGA Championship here, a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, or close to a first-round lead at a course probably tougher than Quail Hollow. It would be my guess. I don't remember which one it was. The thing about him is his form has been steadily climbing up and being pretty good. This season, iron game's really strong. Long iron, like you said, if you're going to go with a shorter guy, the long iron play is solid for him. Doesn't make too many big numbers out there. I could go with him. Kevin Yu sort of hits the stat mold for me. I mean, he's top 10 in my model in the last 24 rounds with his iron play, his distance off the tee, coming in with a solid finish last week. I mean, definitely I could think about using some of these guys.
Yeah, Kevin Yu definitely stood out to me just statistically. I just worry he is such a terrible putter, and it's already difficult enough to putt around here. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get there on him. And then Mackenzie Hughes, I've heard a lot of people talking him up. And if he's going to be popular, just anybody that garners ownership down here in the 5K range, I'm willing to go elsewhere. But if
I agree with that statement 100%, but I do have him in cash, so he's already.
That doesn't matter at all. That's actually probably all the more reason to go with him in cash. And I do think he could be a good play. So if he's not garnering too much ownership, I definitely think it makes sense. But I definitely think from a strategy standpoint, just if you're going to be building Rory Bryson or one of those two, NJT, try and find some guys down the board that aren't going to be popular. Because that is, I mean, those Rory Bryson with a Keith Mitchell, Mackenzie Hughes is probably 4 of 6 lineups that most people are going to make. So if you're making a Rory Bryson lineup, just take those 2 out and you probably already got different than 20% of the Rory Bryson lineups. So just keep an eye on that this week. And as Kenny brought up, if you want to start with a John Rahm or if you want to start with a Xander, I think that immediately gets you different as well. And you're not losing as much. You're probably losing some win equity, but not as much upside as you would think. So just from a strategy standpoint, I think that's what we're looking at this week. Anything to add there, Kenny?
No, it sounds about right, man. I'll start building. It makes me want to build, 50, 100 lineups again, but you got to stick to what I've been doing here recently.
Yep. Yeah, it's been working out. There's no reason to change it. Like I said, for me, it was only a month, but it was enough of losing money. So I jumped back on the old train, the 25 lineups. But so last 2 years, I've told you stories. The first year was tripping balls and then tripping over a baby deer.
Oh, yes, I do remember these.
Then last year was tripping out and thinking that landscapers were following me and out to get me. So this year, I'm going to let you pick. We have either my own personal butterfish, not with his high stakes, or Joe Namath Football Camp. Which story do you want to hear?
Well, let's go Joe Namath Football Camp. I'm good on people shitting themselves here recently.
Understood. So Joe Namath Football Camp, played football, was obviously a Jet fan growing up. So my dad pays for me and my brother to go. I think I was a sophomore in high school. Now, this is at Nichols College. We're staying in the dorm rooms, and basically they were shipping in kids, high school kids from all over the country. Now, they were paying for these kids to go there. So there was like kids that were going on, already had scholarships as freshmen in high school to go play football. So every day we're playing football, practicing. Joe Namath is there, pretty much hammered the entire time. His daughter was actually pretty hot. Everybody was hitting on her. But every night they made us go into this hot auditorium. They had a couple fans in there, and it was like 95 degrees. Everybody's sweating their ass off, and they would watch like kids movies. So, a lot of these kids were straight hood. I mean, they were brought in from the ghettos. And one day we're out there, we're taking a water break, and everybody's just like, I'm not going to watch this movie tonight. And the one kid's like, all right, let's go back to my dorm room while everybody's watching a movie. He's like, and we'll play spades. So we do that. We go, and he left the window open. We didn't want to go through the hallways and have anyone see us. We go through the outside, climb through the window, and we're all sitting there playing spades. So all of a sudden we're sitting there, and he goes,
so these guys are black, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, playing spades with black people can be dangerous sometimes.
Absolutely. No, and that's the thing. It got heated. So all of a sudden, two guys are about to fight, and this guy whose room we're in, he's like, yo, he's like, I brought weed. He's like, I was only smoking it myself. I didn't want to smoke it with anybody else. But if you guys want to smoke, I got a blunt roll. So everybody's like, all right, cool. So about 6 of us hop out the window. We go outside, go smoke a blunt. So he lets everybody else hit it first. And something wasn't right. So all of a sudden, he goes, oh, shit. He gave me the wrong one. And we're all like, what are you talking about? He goes, that's dust. So I'm at Joe Namath Football Camp, and I just smoked dust. So all of a sudden, we go back in the room. Everybody's retarded. And there's probably like 5 other kids that didn't smoke with us. So they're in there. All of a sudden, we hear Joe Namath come in because they knew we were missing. They knew every single person by name that was missing. So we all hide. We're hiding in closets, under beds, in the shower. And Joe Namath is walking down the hall, calling us out name by name, saying we have to come out because they know that we weren't in the auditorium. So I'm sitting there totally dusted in a ball, in a closet, just sitting there as Joe Namath is yelling my name. It was absolutely
that's
insane.
Fucking hilarious. Joe Namath busted you being high on boat.
Yep. and then we all had to go, and we had to write apology letters. And like I said, some of these kids were literally like, they had scholarships, and they thought they were going to lose their fucking scholarships. And I'm just some kid from upstate New York that my dad paid for me to go there, so I didn't give a shit. But they were. It was interesting.
I thought the story was going to go somewhere else because I grew up playing spades, like, with all my friends back in high school and stuff who were athletes. They were black, right? And it's a different type of game with that. It's a different type of game.
You got to know what you're doing.
You don't fuck up.
Know what you're doing.
You don't fuck up. But using the marijuana, using the weed is like this calm down situation. Yep. I've done that many a time before in my life where it's been nice. Let's just fucking hit this and chill the fuck out. Yeah, that works like 85% of the time. Yep. That usually works. Yep. So that was very smart, except for the part where it was Bo.
That day took several twists that I was not expecting. I was expecting to have to be sitting in an auditorium watching Bambi or something again, sweating my ass off. Next thing I know, I'm sitting on a floor playing spades. And then next thing I know, I'm totally dusted out of my mind in the closet with Joe Namath yelling at me.
That is fucking hilarious. It's really, I'm picturing this in my mind right now because I'm a little high right now too. I'll admit. So I'm picturing this in my mind at the moment, and I see Joe in his fucking full mink coat, just walking through like a log cabin dorm, like searching and yelling out your name. Like, and it's an incredible sight that I'm seeing in my mind's eye at this moment in time.
I like that site a little bit more, but this was like they had just built brand new dorms, so it was pretty nice.
It was nice. Okay, it was nice.
And basically all he wore the entire time was somebody was dressing him because he was basically in just sweatpants and like Jets t-shirts.
Okay.
And he was hammered drunk pretty much the entire time.
Well, yeah, you would have should have been fine, but that is fucking hilarious, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
That is hilarious. Fucking Joe Namath catching you high as shit.
Yeah.
That is funny.
All right, well, we got it under control here. We're definitely taking down another outright winner, and we're going to win a shit ton of money on DraftKings, too, for the second major of the year. Kenny, always one of my favorite shows when you join me, but thanks for doing it.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure. It's a tradition now. I guess we're going to have to do it next year, too.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully next year we go into it with another outright.
Then next year I'll hear the Butterfish-esque story from you.
Yeah, there we go. All right. All right. Have a good week, Kenny. Good luck this week. So that's going to do it for this one. As always, check out thehelmsports.com. We'll have all my bets up there. I already have my PGA preview up there. Head over to the madlabmma.com. Obviously, MadLab absolutely scorches UFC and boxing. And every single bet that I make, you get it the second that I make it. So you get the same number in the Discord over there. But that's going to do it for this week. Appreciate everyone listening. Please leave a review. Hit the like button on YouTube. Goes a long way on these major weeks towards growing the audience. But I'm your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
Steph on out there.